What's up, guys? So today I have a story for you about my scariest babysitting experience ever. So about 2 years ago, I actually worked as a nanny, and it was like the greatest gig ever because the people I worked for, they had one kid. She was 9 years old, and they both worked at night. So like, I didn't really have to do much. I like read her stories to go to sleep, and then during the day I worked my other job, but I got to sleep when I was watching her, like at night. Like I read her story for bed, and then in the morning I had to get ready for school because her parents worked like 7 to 7, so I'd be there at like 6:30, and then I'd leave in the morning as soon as her parents got home, so like 7:15, something like that. And so I just got to sleep basically. It was really, really chill. Well, when I first started watching this girl, her family had just moved to the area, and they were both like nurses or something, I don't know, something like that, but they just both moved here, and so they didn't have like a house yet, so they were moving a lot from rental to rental. And the second rental that they got, like the first one was like kind of weird, but it was like okay, it was fine, whatever, because the rentals they were getting were pretty like sketchy, mainly because they were looking for a place to live, so it wasn't like they were looking for like their one sole place, you know. It wasn't like, it was very temporary. So the rental that they got first was fine, whatever. And then the second rental that they got was like super sketchy. Like it was a nicer house than the first one, but it just felt very odd. Like it was in the middle of this really nice neighborhood, but it was the only house that looked kind of like run down. And it was across the street from another house that was run down. And all the other houses were pretty nice. So it was kind of this like weird looking thing where you'd like drive down the road and be like, oh, you could tell which houses were like different, like there's something that doesn't belong right here. And it was these two like mirroring weird houses that were like across from each other. And the one house across from them had, I think, like 3 or 4 kids that were constantly running out on the road. They were like never wearing clothes. They would like come to the house and like just get food at like breakfast. They'd just show up and be like, hey, we're here for breakfast. And they weren't like old kids, they were like very young. So I mean, that one kind of made sense. Like the parents clearly were neglectful and they weren't getting what they needed. So I believe the lady I worked for called child support services at one point because she was like, this is not okay. Like, they at least need food. Because they would come over starved and just, like, eat all of her food. But anyways, so the house they were living in, they had 2 dogs and the girl and me when they weren't there. That was all that was in the house. There was nothing else. And one of the dogs was super old. It, like, never moved. It was always just laying there, like, half asleep / dead. And the other dog was a young playful puppy, and it actually wasn't there when this particular incident happened. So like it would normally be like the cause of like noise and excitement, but it wasn't there. So we had the old grumpy dog, we had the girl, and we had me. Okay, that's what was in the house that night. So this one night, it was like November, December, like around Christmas, I went over to watch her like I did every night almost, and got there, everything was fine. We read a story, she went to bed, and that night I went in and I got in bed, and which her room was like next to where I was sleeping, but like I said, they just moved in there, so I was sleeping on the floor. So this particular night I was kind of cold, so I'd moved my bed closer to like the door, and I left my door open so I could hear her if she was like scared or something, because she always wanted me to stay with her and then like sleep in her room and stuff, and instead I would like wait till she fell asleep and then go to my room. Anyways, you know how kids are. But so I like waited till she went to sleep, I went to my room, and then I parked myself like in front of the door because I was freezing and my room didn't have heat, but there was heat coming from the rest of the house because they had a fireplace in the living room. Anyways, so I was there, and all of a sudden I hear this noise and I'm like, that sounds like footsteps. So automatically I think the little girl that I'm watching is up and about, like she woke up after I put her to bed. So I get up and I'm like, go into her room, she's sleeping, and this is a small house, okay? So her room's like here, the room I'm in's here, there's a hallway, her parents' room is across the hall, there's a hallway, and across from where I was sleeping, my room, was the bathroom, and then down the hallway you've got kitchen, living room, and they're kind of like in a circle, like a U, with in the middle there's a fireplace, so the chimney's going up the middle, and it kind of opens both ways, and then you've got the front door. Okay, so that was the whole house. So it was really small, and that was kind of the layout of it. So I went into her room first, which is behind where I was, and then I checked her parents' room and the bathroom, and as I'm turning to go back like to bed or whatever, because I'm like, oh, it's the dog, because I didn't remember that the little dog was not there that day. I was thinking it was there, and then I remembered like, that dog's not here. So I went to check the old dog because I was like, if it's walking around, I'm probably gonna have to clean up some messes, because it was getting so old that it was like starting to have accidents and stuff like that. So I like immediately I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not my job. I'm not getting paid enough for that. So I like ran in to try to find the dog to see if it was like walking around and needed to go out or anything weird. And the dog is fast asleep in this little corner bed in the living room, and the door's open to the very front door. And I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But their door was a little gimmicky. Like if you didn't shut it just right, it would open. But if you shut it and locked it, it would not open. There was no way to open it. So you couldn't lock it unless somebody was there that could unlock it. It was like a really old house and it had a lot of issues. But if it was unlocked, it would swing open. So I just was like, I just must have forgotten to lock it. So I go over, I close it, I lock it, I check it, and then I went back to bed. And about 5 minutes later, I woke up to that same like weird noise. And I was thinking like, this is really weird. But so I got up, checked on again, and then I walked in towards the living room thinking that the dog must be making some weird noises, right? Because like what else is making this noise? And the door's open again. And at this point I'm like, okay, I remember distinctly shutting that door and like locking it and checking it. So I look at the dog's fast asleep. Like I said, so old, he was like nearly dead. Nothing else is like moved or disturbed. I looked in the kitchen, it was all good. So this time I turn a light on thinking like, I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to keep walking out here in the dark because that's creepy. So I turn the light on, shut the door, lock it, check it, it's all good, go back to bed. About like maybe 15-20 minutes later, like just as I was dozing off, I started hearing that sound again. So I get up, I go and check, and the door is open again. And I was like, okay, something's going on now. Like this is not okay. So I texted the lady I was working for and I was like, hey, the door keeps swinging open and I'm just like wondering if this is something that keeps happening, because I'd been working for them long enough to know that the door's normal issue was like if you don't lock it, it swings open, but otherwise you can't get it unlocked. So I was just like really confused by all of that. She texts me back a few minutes later and she like tells me the spiel that I already know about the door, and I'm like, okay, just checking because it keeps coming open. And she's like, well, are the neighbor kids coming in or like whatever? Because she was very chill. Like she wouldn't always lock the door and she'd just kind of let it swing open, whatever, let the neighbor kids come in and eat. She's very, very just like relaxed about it all. Like the neighborhood was good. It was just the house across the street that was a little iffy. But yeah, so she was just kind of like thinking probably that I wasn't locking it and it was just swinging open. And I was like, no, I'm locking it and it's swinging open. And she's like, oh, you must not have locked it all the way, or, you know, just like by text, via text. You can't really explain that much. But so I like locked it again and I went back to bed again. And this time when I heard the noise, I stayed in bed and I just like listened, and I got my phone out and I was like gonna call 911 and like be like, there's somebody breaking into the house. Because like how else is somebody getting in if most people can't even open the door with a key, but then the door's just coming open? It was just super creepy. So I'm just laying there like kind of thinking and like waiting with my cell phone, and all of a sudden I start to hear footprints. And at first I was like, okay, I left lights on, there's a dog in the living room, I could call the cops, but by the time they come, this person's obviously very brave. Like it could be a bad situation, right? So I had my phone on 911 and I carried it into the living room with me, and nobody was there at all. The dog is still sleeping, the door is wide open again, but this time I happened to like glance down and there are literal child footprints going across the floor, like out the door. And so at that point I got real scared that like the kid I was watching had like wandered out of the house. So I like ran in and I checked on her, because that was my first thought, like child footprints going outside, like. But I ran in and checked on her. She was completely fine. She was sleeping still. She seemed totally fine, totally chill. And so then I like peered into her parents' room. I checked the bathroom. I looked back in the room I was in, because the house is mostly dark, remember? And then I like looked in the kitchen. I looked back in the living room, and I went and closed the door, and I looked at the footprints and kind of noticed the pattern. They had gone like through the living room, through the kitchen, back out the door, and they were like little kids' bare footprints. And I was like super creeped out by that. So I texted her mom back and I'm like, some little kids' footprints are now inside the house, and the door was open again. She's like, oh, it's probably just the neighbor kids playing jokes on you. You guys have to realize this is now like 11, 12 o'clock on a school night in the middle of winter. It was raining outside, which is the only reason I could see the footprints, is because it was wet, and so like, you know, you could see footprints coming in. So I'm like thinking to myself, that's not what's going on here. Like no little kid could somehow figure out how to unlock that door, and also nothing was gone, and the kids knew me. The kids knew the whole family, so like why didn't they just stay there when I got up? Like it was just a weird situation. So I was like, I don't think that's what's going on. But I didn't want to worry her mom either, because her mom's working and her dad's working. Her dad's working somewhere that he doesn't have access to like a cell phone or anything, so she was like my only source of contact. She's my only point of contact, and their whole family, everybody else that they knew, lived like way out of the area. They found me through like a nanny service situation where I was like finger checked, fingerprinted and everything. So anyways, so there was really nothing she could do except for quit work and like go home. And I didn't want her to do that because I was just like, I'm probably being silly. So I was like, it's fine, I'll take care of it, whatever. I just wanted to like keep you in the loop, let you know what's going on. And she was like, okay, thanks, you know, if you see them, like tell them, maybe take them back over to their parents or whatever. So I'm kind of freaked out at this point because I really didn't think it was the neighbor kids. So I set a chair, like a lawn chair, because like I said, they're like moving and it was like a temporary rental situation. I set a lawn chair in the middle of their living room next to the fire, and I sat in it, and I got water, and I got my phone and Netflix, and I got a giant butcher knife out of the kitchen, because although it seems like from my story maybe that like it would be the little children, but like it really wasn't the little children. I was like 100% sure this was like a ghost demon child. And but like you can't say that or you'll sound insane, right? But like I knew how the door worked. I knew that the little kids had never come over at night before. I also knew that the little kids were like the type of children that when they came over, they were very loud and like, hey, can I borrow some orange juice? I want donuts. Do you have carrot cake today? Like that was like them. I don't know why we only had treats, but so I was pretty sure it wasn't them. Like it didn't make sense. It was also really creepy that by the time I got out there, every single time whoever it was gone, and that the dog was totally sleeping and not even awake and like purring and like looking or anything. It was just kind of weird. So I'm sitting there with all my things and just decided to like watch Netflix all night, you know, just like chill. Morning comes and I go and I get up and I go wake up the little girl that I babysit, and I was like, hey, time to get up, you know. She's very slow in the morning, so I knew that I had to like get her up, go make her lunch, then get her to school or get her on the school bus to go to school. So I like wake her up, tell her to go get in the shower, and then I go to the kitchen to make her lunch, right? Just like it's morning now, the sun is up, thinking things are gonna be good, and I go to open the fridge to get out her lunch pail, because her routine every day is you take your lunch pail and you put it in the fridge, and then the next morning we take it out, and she already has like her Capri Sun and whatever in there that her parents packed for her. But we put like her sandwich and stuff in there in the morning. But anyways, so I go to get her lunch pail out of the refrigerator, and as I open the refrigerator, I see the butcher knife that I had had with me all night and never moved in the refrigerator. Is that not the creepiest thing you've ever heard? That was literally one of the creepiest moments of my life. I like open the fridge and see the butcher knife, and at first I didn't even believe it myself. I was like, I'm going crazy. So I go back into where I was, because I was thinking maybe they have two butcher knives, because they didn't have much stuff. They didn't really have any of their furniture yet or anything. They literally had like one of everything so that they could do like minimal stuff before they moved into their actual house. But I go back in, I check all the kitchen drawers, there are no other knives. I go to the living room, my knife is gone. It's no longer sitting where I left it, and the chair has moved back like 5 feet. So like I wasn't completely crazy, like, because it wasn't just like at some point I sleptwalked to the fridge when I thought I was watching some old Nickelodeon or Disney show, and then like walked back and slept in my chair and woke up and dreamed it all. It was like the chair had physically been moved in addition to the knife being moved, and so creepy. So I took the knife out, put it in the drawer, and then I never told anybody. Like I finished making her lunch and I was super paranoid, and I had my phone on like 911 all morning and never told anybody. I did recently tell one of my friends, because I was like, you're never gonna believe this, but because we got in this whole discussion about like seeing demons and stuff. I don't know. But yeah, so that was definitely one of the scariest babysitting experiences that I ever had. And surprisingly, it was not the child that was scary, it was the situation, because I find kids very scary sometimes. They're scary little buggers. Have you ever watched those horror movies with kids? Make you never want to have a child, let me tell you. Also, when little kids are around and they start making the faces of this little kids made on those horror shows, it's kind of like you kind of want to shoot them. You know what I'm talking about? Anyways, so yeah, that was my story. I hope you guys liked it. If you did, leave me a comment down below telling me your scariest experience. Also, if you guys want to, during the week when I don't have videos up, you guys can hang out with me on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, or even on my blog. You can check them all out. I'll put them somewhere, maybe right here, maybe, if I'm talented enough to figure that out. And I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!